Welcome to You've Got This with Sarah Hamaker, a podcast to encourage and equip moms along their parenting journey. Join Sarah each week as she interviews dads and moms like you and discusses the joys, challenges, and rewards of raising kids.
Hi, and welcome to this week's You've Got This. I'm your host, Sarah Hamaker, and I'm glad you joined me. Today I want to talk about, is this normal? The young teen years edition. I often get questions about kids between the ages of 13 and 15. I get questions about a lot of kids, but we're going to focus on the young teen. Middle and early high school teens can swing between being a kid and trying to be adult in a flash of an eye. And this podcast, we're going to talk about grades, kids who are ashamed of their parents, and really, who isn't these days, navigating health concerns and peer pressure. So the first question the first two questions are about grades. One is about a 15-year-old who wanted to go to a private high school, and the parents said, yes, but you need to keep your grades up. She has not kept up her end of the bargain. And the second one was a 8th grader who is having trouble with school because school's getting harder. And both of them, they are wondering what to do. So let's talk about the kid who is struggling with school right now. And the mother says, I feel I can hear your answer even as I type. He will have to learn the hard way by failing and struggling. She thinks it's their obligation to teach him study skills. Okay, so there are a couple of things that you can do in this situation. You can tell him you have until X date to get your grades up, or you're going to solve the problem for him. You can say, if he looks like he really does need help, you can tell him, okay, I want you to stay after school or take advantage of these study halls and the support that is often offered in junior high, and to meet with a teacher and to let him do that, or you'll step in and do it for him. And both of these are giving the onus of solving this problem to your son, because you cannot solve this problem. You cannot create study habits for him. You can, however, sit him down and say, I've noticed that you're struggling. How can I help? And help him problem solve that. Help him come up with some ways to do it. Because obviously whatever's happening right now is not working. What can he do to help with that? How can he help? Maybe he is too distracted by extracurricular activities. Maybe you need to cut back on those and give him extra time. Problem solve, and then say, well, why don't you try, just listen and offer gentle advice if he wants it. If not, just listen and just ask questions. Well, what happens if you can't do X? What are you going to do instead? Help him to study, help him to come up with a plan. That he's coming up with a plan, you're just asking some leading questions. And then allow him to put that plan into place and see how that goes. And for maybe 2 weeks, and then meet again and say, how is it going? You seem a little calmer, or you seem more frustrated. Is there someone at school you could talk to about this, etc.? That is really helping them to solve the problem without you as the parent taking over. That is key. We should be, in the early teen years, we should be starting that edging back, to just moving from being micromanaging. Well, no, we shouldn't micromanage our kids, but being more hands-on to moving into that mentor relationship with our kids. This is what we need to do during the teen years, and the early teen years are when we start to make that transition. Now, what about the girl who is just daydreaming her way through school? She's 15. She's probably in 9th grade. The mom doesn't say, but I'm guessing 9th grade. And she's participating now. She's an athlete and participating in an athletic event, sport at school, and now the parents are like, but her grades are really bad. I would tell the girl the same thing. I would say, you need to You have this number of weeks to pull up your grades, and if you do not, then you will not be playing this sport. And be clear about that, and then say, do you need anything from me to help you accomplish that goal? Let her answer. My guess is she's going to say, no, Mom, I got it. You're overreacting. Yeah. You say, okay, and you let her do it. And then when she doesn't follow through, you simply have her tell the coach that she can't play in the game on Saturday. And then she won't be playing anymore. Now, yes, this will embarrass her and this will make her angry. And and her grades may take a nosedive. But there comes a time in our lives when we need just to be honest with our kids, and we cannot make our kids study. We cannot make, and these grades are not our grades. Some kids are really good at school. Some kids are not. Some kids need some outside help to get their grades better, and we can provide that when necessary. Not that we will do it, but we can say, do you need help, and who do you want to ask for that help? And then we have to say it's their grades, it's their life. And yes, that means that sometimes our children will totally bomb out of school or just get enough grades to pass. And this may go on, and they may not go to college right away. They may not have success that way, but some kids just need to figure that out for themselves, and it's hard, but we need to let them do that. Now, our next question comes from a kid, 13-year-old in 7th grade, who has been ashamed, the mom writes, we have struggled with our child being ashamed to be seen with either of her parents in public to the point that she acts in a way that hurts us. So, I'm just really kind of funny. That, she didn't want to be seen with Dad, who came with an umbrella to pick her up from school. In elementary school, she rides her bike ahead of Mom. How she was going to get into school. Some kids are just ashamed of their parents, or just don't want to be seen with their parents. They want to be seen cool. They don't think their parents are cool. And I'm just telling you, it doesn't matter. I do not need my child to be proud of me. I do not need my teenager to want to be seen with me. It's okay. Some kids just feel it more keenly than others, and you just need to let it go. You just need to laugh at it because it is kind of funny. And one day she may laugh at it too, but this is not that day. Don't laugh at her. If you're going to laugh, do it at home behind a closed door where she can't hear you. That will just make her madder, and it will hurt her more. You need to stop being hurt by this. Easy for me to say yes, but the more that you act like it bothers you, the more that she's going to be uppity about it. So, and it doesn't matter. It's not logical. It's just something that she does. So just ignore it. Let it go. Let her do that, and just be cheerful, be loving, and just let all that junk go, because that's something to do with her, and she probably will outgrow it, as long as you don't make a big deal about it. Now, then there's the defiant son, the one whose grades are dropping. He argues, refuses to do household chores. He's 15, and they're having trouble with him, and they're wondering what to do. They're wondering if they should strip the door, strip his room, take the door off the hinges. My question is, how much have they connected with this son? Now, I know that's maybe not the answer that they wanted, but when a child is acting that defiant, there's something going on. Whether it's there's the fact that he's just does not fitting in at school, or whether the fact that he feels like his parents are on his case all the time and they don't have that close relationship that they once had. Reconnect with him. Find a way to do nice things for him. And I know this seems silly sometimes when you're looking at a kid who's misbehaving so often, but I'm not saying don't correct them. I'm saying that in order for discipline to be effective, you need to have a close relationship with him. He may not want that now, but that doesn't mean that you don't try. I think they need to be some rebuilding here. before correction could happen. So my advice to these parents would be to stop trying. Just say, okay, your grades are your grades, and we expect this. They don't have to give them a cell phone. They don't have to take them places. That they do, and they don't have to give them access to electronics, but they do need to show him they love him. They do need to make his favorite meal. They do need to make sure he has clean clothes. Ask him how things are going. Talk about things they know he's interested in, things like that. Reconnect with him, and I think they'll find that would be helpful for that. Now, this other question, another question comes from a 13-year-old 8th grader who has stomach issues. He has to eat certain foods and take medicine. So the school he attends goes on this Intersession Trip once a year. They didn't let him go last year because he was immature. And now they're concerned because they have no direct adult supervision. There's people on the trip, but there's no grown-ups in the room, which is totally understandable. These kids are 13 and 14 years old in 8th grade. So they're concerned about his dietary needs. And my response is, does your son even want to go? That's one question the mom didn't answer. Most middle schoolers are immature, but most are capable of remembering to take their own medicine and avoiding certain foods. Frankly, I'd be more concerned if adults were sleeping in the same room as my middle schooler of either sex. Most schools have strict rules about that sort of thing, and I think she should be grateful that her son's school doesn't allow adults to sleep in the same room as students. And this sounds like a wonderful opportunity for students to gain some of that maturity by being away from home in a controlled, supervised environment. It sounds like the school has done this a time or two, and I bet the teachers know how to keep the kids in line when necessary. I let my son go, but I'd also start preparing for him now by giving over all the responsibility of maintaining his diet and medications to him. Give him time to practice in the safe confines of home and school to figure all that out before the trip commences. And I think that they'll find that, a 13-year-old 8th grader ought to be able to figure out how to, what foods to avoid and how to avoid them, and how to advocate for himself. And he needs to do that, so the mom needs to let him do that. Okay, so then the next question comes from a 13-year-old in a new school, and he's struggling. He's struggling to fit in, and he's like the cool crowd. And they make fun of him for listening to Christian music. And there's not a lot of kids in his grade, so she's just concerned about let him spend time with these kids outside of school who seem to kind of be making fun of him because he really wants to fit in, and just didn't know what to do. So my answer to her is, as moms, we never quite get used to watching our children suffer because of friends or classmates, do we? It hurts us to think that they're hurting, and we want to rush in and fix the problem. But there's no time like the present for your son to learn what he's made of, and it's sterner stuff than his new buddies are displaying. Maybe I'm misreading things, but since you mentioned he went to a Christian school before he's at this other private school, let me gently remind you that Christian schools aren't bubbles. Kids are kids, and peer pressure is peer pressure. I went to a Christian school for middle school and a different one for high school, and let me tell you, the kids were mean and cliquish and wanted nothing to do with the new student, especially one who was shy. But that's my story, and we're not going to get into that now. I'll leave and talk more about her son. Middle school is tough. Kids aren't quite grown, and they aren't quite kids. Boys are really noticing girls for the first time, and they have no idea what to do with those feelings. They're also trying to figure out who they are and where they fit in, and it's messy, and it can result in hurt feelings. So it is immaturity and uncertainty and hormones. What to do about your son? I'd invite the friends over to your house, not to grill them, but to get to know them. Have them upstairs when you are around to do more than serve snacks. Have one or two over for dinner at a time. Make your home inviting and open, but resist the urge to lecture or pontificate when these classmates are over. Play board games. Keep things light. Gently correct if inappropriate language is used in your presence, such as, please don't use that kind of language in our home. Thank you. Don't let him go over for unsupervised parties, but tell him he can throw you under the bus as being the meanest mom on the block for refusing to let him run wild. As I've told my teenagers time and time again, feel free to use me for any excuse you want to save face with your peers when you know you shouldn't do something. Because I don't need teenagers to like me. I'm not their friend. I'm the adult, so I can take not being the cool mom. And I hope this one can too. And I think that's something that's so important as our kids, especially our young kids, are there. We're adults. I don't need teenage friends. I can be friends with my children when they're grown. I do not need to be a cool mom. I am not a cool mom. That I am the meanest mom they will ever meet. And my kids know I say what I mean and I mean what I say. And to give your kids that gift, to say what you mean and mean what you say, especially as teenagers, and to know that they have your permission to say, I'm sorry, you know how my mom is. I will be grounded for a year if I do X. Throw me under the bus any time of the day if it helps them to get that backbone to do the right thing. I don't care, and I don't care if my kids' friends like me or not. That is not my job, and I am not in high school anymore or junior high. So just that note, remember, you're the adult. You've got this. You've been listening to You've Got This. I'm your host, Sarah Hammerker, and today we've been talking about, is this normal? The Young Teen Years edition. I hope you join me next week when we'll have another guest.
Thanks for listening to this week's podcast of You've Got This with Sarah Hammerker. Sign up to receive notification of new podcasts and listen to previous editions at sarahhammerker.com. Until next time, remember, parenting might be hard sometimes, but don't worry, you've got this.